All right, so I am a used car dealer and I am here to answer your questions. Hold on a second. All right. Now we're ready. All right, so like I said earlier, I am a used car dealer, and today what we're going to be doing is answering your questions. So what we have done over the last week, and when I say we, what my wife has done over the last week is gather a lot of the questions that you guys have had in the comments. Some of the most common questions I get, some of the more unique questions, some of the questions that we think are going to be most helpful for you guys to know. And we have just put them together today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer them for you. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. I do this, try to do this every week. I give market updates. I take you guys to the auction with me every week. So if you want to see some of that footage, you can check out some of our other videos. But I'm going to be continuing to do that in the future. It seems like a lot of you guys like it, and I've been blown away by the support. Please like this video and leave me a comment, leave us some questions, and we'll try to get to them next week. But like I said, thank you guys for all your support, and let's get into the first one. All right, so the first one comes in from Mikey, Mickey. I'm going to get all of your names wrong, and I'm sorry. Wilf No. Brandon, I assume this current situation will affect your business. Will you be okay? I appreciate your concern for our business, and truth is, with the lack of demand that's going through the market, it has hit us in some capacity. Our sales are down from where they had been a year ago, 2 years ago, but that was the golden age, and I actually like that this is happening. I like that the demand is going down. That means prices are going to come down. They're not down yet. I know I'm seeing a lot of comments saying that prices are still ridiculous. Yes, they're still ridiculous, and I really want the market to come in a lot, and if that means that my business takes a hit for a little bit, then that's what I want. But our business is going to be just fine. So when I talk about a lot of these used car dealers that are going to get hurt, that are going to go under, it's because of the leverage that they use. I've talked about this a lot on the channel, but just for those of you that don't know, a lot of used car dealers, they don't actually own their inventory. They don't pay cash for their cars. What they use is something called a floor plan, and this is a form of credit that they're able to use to actually buy their inventory. And what they do is they basically swipe a credit card every time they buy a car. And if they don't sell this car and repay their floor plan company, the bank, whenever, if the car sits on their lot for 60, 90 days, so they have this interest, and the interest starts stacking up, and they have to continuously make these payments. So if the market, if the value of these vehicles is going down and their cost is going up on these vehicles, then at some point they get underwater. And remember, these car dealers, they didn't have the money to begin with. So if they have a lot of 40, 50 cars and they end up being underwater $1,000 on each one of them, it's probably not going to be that bad for most dealers, but there are going to be some dealers out there that are over leveraged and they have 40, 50 cars that are on these floor plans, and they sit for 60, 90 days because they keep their prices elevated because they're too greedy. Then what's going to end up happening is as these cars sit, they're going to have to come up with the difference. And a lot of these floor plan companies, they charge very high rates. They charge very high fees. So let's just say a dealer goes through a dry spell for a few months and they end up owing about $1,000 on each one of these cars for their floor plan. Then if they have a 40, 50 car lot, they could end up owing $40,000, $50,000. And this is money they didn't have to begin with. So what does that mean? That means that ultimately the bank's going to get hit on this, whoever lent them the money in the first place. But if they get their floor plans cut off, if they get their floor plans greatly decreased, then that means they can't buy cars. And if they can't buy cars, then there's no reason for them to even be in business. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, if you can't buy cars, you can't sell cars. If you can't sell cars, you can't make money. So I think a lot of them are going to get hit as the demand increasingly goes down, as used car prices stay elevated. They are going to come down some, and it's going to be a slow, gradual decline. But the demand is really what's killing these used car dealers, because they can't afford to wait for prices to get cheaper because they're stuck in this stuff that they can't lower the prices anyway. Like I said, they're in these cars and they have borrowed the money on the cars. So that's why they can't lower their prices, because they don't have the money to pay the difference in the first place. So just back to the question, our dealership's going to be fine. I don't floor plan. I pay cash for every car that I own. And I will never floor plan. I will never have any debt associated with my business because I just believe it's too dangerous. But a lot of these guys, a lot of these dealers, they're over leveraged. And yes, I think they're going to be in great trouble. All right, next question comes in from Christopher Wall. What is the average profit you want to get on a unit? So when we price our cars, I will buy a car from auction, we'll get it back, we'll fix whatever we need to fix, we'll order parts for it, we'll get it detailed, we'll have our inspections on it, and then we'll post it for sale. But whenever we are actually figuring out how much we want to sell for the car, we'll get our car fee, what it costs for the car, plus whatever expenses we have. And then what we typically do is we won't mark the car up to what the car's worth. We'll take it off of what actually we bought it for. So in that way, if I'm buying cars the right way and I'm getting good deals at auction, then I can give my customer a good deal because I'm not selling my customer a car for what it's worth. I'm marking it up from what I actually purchased it from, what we have in it. So we typically like to sell our cars where we make between $1,000 and $1,500 a car. That's how my sales manager goes about actually pricing the car. If we got a really good deal on it, we think it's a great car, then we'll try to make $1,500 on it. If it's just an okay car and we think it's still decent or whatever, then we'll mark it up for $1,000. Now there's some cars we get that aren't that great. We get them in and we realize we have to put a lot more money in than we thought to, then we'll mark that car accordingly. But I'll just give you our actual number for a car. In the last year, we made on average $1,050 per car. Now that's our gross profit. So from that, I still have to pay my team. I still have to pay our light bill. I still have to pay all the other expenses. We have transport. We have detailers that come in. We have all these other expenses that go along with running a business, advertising. So after all that's paid out of this chunk of $1,050 per car with our gross, then I get to get paid. So it's not all just, okay, we make $1,050 a car and then it all goes to Brandon. That's not the way it works. That's our gross profit. From that, we still pay all of our bills, and we'll end up just netting what's left over. After that, we're still doing great. If we're averaging that $1,050, I'm very happy with that. We're very comfortable. But just so you know, when I say we're trying to make $1,000 a car or $1,500 a car, when I'm showing you these cars that I buy at auction and then how we mark them up, just know that when we sell X amount of cars, all that money does not come straight to me. We still have to run a business out of that gross profit. All right, our next question comes from, I'm going to try this. I don't know how the words are split up, but maybe elf in heel on 10? Close enough? All right, the question I'd have is, how does a normal person participate in an auction? Are they allowed to? Sorry, I got lost. Do you have to have a dealer in order to participate in auction? I think they mean dealer's license. Even if I could participate, would I want to? So also they talk about YA, which I'll make an announcement real quick. They already said it on their show, but going forward, I'm going to be on CarEdge, formerly known as YAA. An artist formerly known as YAA. That's what I meant to say because that's funnier. But every other week, I'm going to be on their podcast live stream. Love Ray and Zach, great guys, and really love for them to have me on. So it's very exciting for us, but look for that going forward. It's going to be every other Wednesday, I believe. And we're going to try to do some other stuff, maybe some videos on their main channel going forward too. But okay, so the question is basically about auctions and can you go into auctions? So all the auctions that I go to are dealer only, and most of the auctions that you'll see across the country are dealer only. Now there are some public auctions out there. There are some county, city auctions out there that you can go buy cars from, but I would highly recommend that if you're not a mechanic, you don't know exactly what you're going for, and even if you are a mechanic, I would highly recommend not going to any public auctions by yourself. They're dangerous to go because that is notoriously where dealers will go and dump their junk, because they know that the public is going to go to these auctions and they know that they don't know what they're looking at. So they'll take their turds to this auction, they'll run them through, and the public will run them up because they don't know what they're looking at. And once you buy a car at an auction, once you throw your hand in there, it is your auction. I'm sorry, it is your car. So I'll give you a little bit of a story. Where I cut my teeth, which is another way to say where I kind of learned how to deal with auctions and how to check out cars. I went back with my grandfather, and maybe someday on the channel, I'll actually give you guys a whole story of how I started and out and how I got to be a used car dealer. But I would go with my grandfather to this small little country dealer, not dealer, but public auction, and they would run every Wednesday night, and they would run about 50, 60 cars. So tiny, tiny place, but it was open to the public because the county that we were in, you didn't have to have any inspections. So literally dealers could come there, sell their junk, and the public could bid on it, and they could literally just title the car to the individual at that point. It was so bad that what this auction would do is they would have a police officer inside the auction, and when an individual, someone who was not a dealer, raised their hand and bid on a car, and if they won that bid, the police officer would literally go straight to that person and escort them to the front desk, so they immediately paid for that car. They didn't even want that customer, the auction didn't even want that customer to go outside and look at what they bought before they paid for it, because they knew if that customer went outside and cranked the car in outside where you could actually hear it, because when you're in the auction lanes, you can't hear it. The auctioneer is so loud, you can't even hardly hear the car run. So if one of these individuals is not really sitting in the car, checking out the car or whatever, they just see a nice flashy Cadillac or something come through, then they'll just bid on it, and then they get stuck with it. And like I said, it was so bad that they wanted that customer's money before the customer could even double check the car. So all that to say is stay away from public auctions, because that is where the junk of the junk of the junk goes. And you can really get stuck with a turd if you don't know exactly what you're looking for. All right, so here's another auction question. Alan E. says, how long are you obligated on your bid? Is your obligation over once the bidding for that vehicle is done, or is there a set time period? Just wondering how these if bids work. So a bid and an if bid are two different things. So I'll answer two different questions. So how long are you obligated on your bid? So once you raise your hand at an auction, at any of these dealers' auctions, if I raise my hand and they say sold, it's locked in. It's my car. So at that point, when they say sold after I raise my hand, I'll some auctions I have a static number, a number that I have every week, and some auctions when I go sign in at the auction counter, then they'll give me a bidder badge with a different number every week. So if I have if I get one of these cars, I'll show my little badge, and the auctioneer will call the number out, and whoever's working the counter next to the auctioneer will put it in the computer, write it down, whatever. So that car is at that point locked into me. If I leave and don't pay for it ever again, then I get kicked out of the auction. So once I get a car sold to me, it's my car. So second question was about if bids. How long do they work? So typically with most auctions, once you get assigned an if bid, that auction company, when the auction is finished, they will call the seller, and usually the seller has till the end of the day to respond to the if bid. So if I go to an auction in the morning, there's a lot of times where I won't hear about this if bid until the very next day. So my if bid, my bid is locked in for usually about 24 hours, but it could even go longer than that, because the auction company gives the seller just about as much time as they want. Auctions are not buyer friendly for the most part. There's a couple auctions that are more buyer friendly than they aren't, but a lot of times they're the smaller auctions, and I buy a lot of cars from these auctions, so they're going to be more lenient towards somebody like me than most other dealers. But whenever they have these sellers are way more important to the auctions than the buyers are. So usually when we get an if bid, the seller gets just about as much time as they want. Now there's some auctions that I can call the next day if it's been 24 hours and I haven't heard anything, that I can say, hey, we got to figure out transport on these things, so can you give the seller a call? I'm going to call back in an hour, and if they haven't responded, I'm just going to no-sell it myself. They'll usually let me do that, but that is if the seller has not responded to this auction, and at some point they kind of understand from my side that I've got a time frame. I've got to get transport and stuff set up. But if I would call 2 hours after the auction and say, hey, I want to no sell this car now, I don't have that option. So usually about 24 hours is the short answer to that. But like I said, these sellers have a lot more leeway than I do. So, all right, the next question comes from Brian Oley, Oleyhy. Is that, somebody correct me? Did you mention being on with the guys at YA? What videos were you on? Want to watch that too, and link the posts in the video. So what we'll do is we'll throw in the description below. There was I've been on there 2 times now. Yeah, just 2 of their daytime shows. Oh, actually 3. I don't know. I'll find them and I'll put them in the description or whatever. Also had an interview with Dr. Know-It-All. It was very good. He was a very great guy. Enjoyed that too. So I'll throw that in the link description below too. And going forward, when we're on other shows, we'll make a point to put links in the descriptions. We'll throw it on the community page. Something I'll get my wife on that, because I am still learning all of this. She is too, but. Thank you for all your patience. We're still trying to figure out how to do everything here, but we'll make sure to be better about putting links and descriptions to make sure you guys know where we are when we are other places. All right, this next question comes from, my wife is giving me the worst names to try to pronounce. Jaewon Sung. Okay. That can't be even remotely close, so I'm very sorry, but thank you for your question. I want that Ford truck. Can you buy it and sell it back to me? No. So I've had so many questions about people wanting to custom buy, custom order from me, say, okay, can you find this 2015 F-150 with 100,000 miles and I'll pay $15,000 for it. Can you find it for me at auction? There's a big reason for that. And that's because, like I said earlier, when I bid on a car, when I raise my hand, that's my car. So if I buy that truck for you, and it turns out to be a turd when I drive it out, it won't make it out, the edge won't crank, the motor's blown, transmission's gone, then it is then my truck. Obviously, you're not going to want to buy that truck from me because it is said turd. So that at that point, I'm stuck with it. But there's another reason. So I'm in North Carolina and I have inspections that I have to get done as a dealer before I can sell a car to an individual. So we'll go back to the example. I buy this turd of a truck and you say, okay, I still want it. I'll get it fixed, whatever. But I have to get that truck inspected before I can sell it to an individual. So that means I actually have to get that truck completely fixed before I can get inspected, before I can sell it. So it goes back to it. If I get a turd and I can't get inspected, then I am stuck with said turd. So no, I don't do any kind of special buying. I won't take you to an auction. I won't buy anything for you from an auction. I only retail all the stuff that I buy, and if it's not worthy to be retailed, then I'll either take it back to the auction, I'll scrap it, I'll do something else with it. But those are only options I have when I actually sell a vehicle. And now, my favorite question of the bunch is from Todd Bouchard, I think. It's good to see disc and a non-disc golf video. Do you play often, and where do you play? So, some people have noticed that I have had some disc in my truck, and those are from disc golf. And I love to play disc golf, and it says, how often do you play? I used to play about 3 times a week, but then I started this thing called YouTube. And now I don't have time to do anything if I still want to have time with my son. So I try to play about once a week. I got some buddies that I play with. We play usually on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon, and try to still play once a week, but it's been tough lately. Still trying to get out. And where do I play? I play in the Charlotte area. So there's tons of courses here. I think we're the disc golf capital of the U.S., so we have tons and tons of courses to play. So if you're ever out in the Charlotte area playing disc golf and you see me, please come up, talk to me, say, hey, you watched my video. So it'd be awesome to see a disc golfer who is also interested in the used car market. All right, so that is the end of this question and answer session. I really appreciate all your questions. We're going to try to get to a lot of them. We're going to continuously look at the comment section. So if you have a question, put it in the comments below. My wife will go through them. I'll go through them. We'll pick out some common questions. We'll pick out some unique questions. We'll pick out some funny questions. I really like the ones that have some humor behind them. It makes my day so much better when I can see someone that's not trying to trash me. Instead, they're saying something funny. So I really appreciate all your comments, all your questions. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and from the bottom of my heart, just thank you guys for all the support. It's just blowing us away, and I really just can't thank you enough, and I hope you have a great day.